And welcome back to the PD Football Podcast. My name is Presh.
My name is Darren.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm fatigued again. 2 weeks off the fatigue, but I think this time it's just because I didn't get enough sleep. How's everything on your end?
I'm great. Avatar just came out on VOD, so I can watch it at home now.
Another 6 times.
I watch it 5 times. Don't slander me. Don't make it seem like I'm
We're getting to double digits.
Yeah, like I'm some sort of Avatar addict that, watches it 6 times in theaters. I only watched it 4.
I mean...
and the 5th time was... I pirated it, okay. Alright, well, anyway, so we're still on the international break, therefore we're doing another evergreen episode. That means you can listen to it at any time and it'll still be largely how we feel, as opposed to our regular episodes where opinions can change on a week-to-week basis. So the only rule this week is that the buying club was in the Premier League at the time of the transfer. So, for example, Jamie Vardy was bought when Leicester win the championship. Therefore, he can't be considered. The other thing is, I didn't consider non-footballing reasons. So, for example, Benjamin Mendy was arrested on rape charges and City had to terminate his contract. So, I'm not going to consider, instances like that where non-footballing reasons are the cause of the transfer not working out. Yeah. Okay. So, my rationale for this, for both lists was... Number one thing is the impact that they made. So, for example, like there's a player on a team that won a lot of trophies, but that player didn't contribute to the trophies. I'm not gonna, like for example, Anderson. Anderson for Man United. The number 2 thing I considered was trophies. So, you can come in, be like a gunman for a team, score 100 goals, but if you don't win any trophies, it's very hard for me to consider you as one of the best transfers. The third thing I looked at was the transfer fee paid. So, obviously I'm going to give more preference to a lower fee than a higher fee, even if the player is not as good.
Yeah.
So, do you have a criteria that you use that you want to share? Or?
I mean, my criteria was mostly the price point versus the quality of the player. I don't think I really paid much attention to how much they won. Obviously, I mean... the players on my list would have won something, but I looked at more in terms of their impact as an individual footballer in relation to the price they were bought at and the time. All
right, so similar things, just not trophies.
Yeah.
All right. So there's going to be a forward bias for me because goals and assists are measurable, whereas other positions are more subtle. And so, and the last thing is all monetary values that I mentioned will be given in Great British Pound Sterling.
Mine too.
I've given the fee paid at the time as well as the fee adjusted for inflation, but something that I can't control for is football inflation. So in the year 2000, the total fees paid for players in the Premier League was £320 million. In the year 2025, it was £3.1 billion. Roughly a 10 times increase and far outpacing monetary inflation. So there's if I say this guy was bought for 1 million in the 90s, I'll give you the adjusted inflation, but realize that it's actually much higher than you would assume because of the transfer fees at the time.
I mean I guess that would be in relation to what the football market was valued at the time.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, football inflation.
Yeah,
which is something it's very difficult to account for, and I don't think how.
Yeah, especially with regards to the Premier League specifically in the last 10 years. It's been... most of the transfers in the Premier League have been hyperinflated because people know Premier League clubs have money, or other teams know Premier League clubs have money. So I think generally we might consider a fee that might have sounded absurd in the early 2000s to be the best transfer of all time in a modern context. So
similarly to the previous evergreen episodes, we're going to go from 5 to 1. You go with your 5, I'll go with my 5.
We're starting with best or worst.
We're starting with best transfers of all time. If we have the same transfer, like say for example mine is number 2 but it's your number 5, because it's your number 5, you're going to bring it up first, and I'm just going to join in on the conversation and mention everything I would have mentioned in the number 2 slot, so we have one conversation about the play instead of two different conversations. All right. So, do you want to start with your number 5 best transfer of all time in the Premier League?
My number 5, I went with Mo Salah, 36.9 million, Roma to Liverpool. I think, again, it's like it might sound higher than some of the other numbers on the list, but I think relative to what you paid in the modern market, especially post 2015, I guess, or post Neymar, I guess. Post Neymar, yeah. It was relatively... probably it was an inflated market already, especially for Premier League clubs. I think you got statistically, in terms of output, the best winger in the history of the league, and I think one of the best players in Premier League history generally. So I think it was both him and Mane. I was considering it was a toss-up for either one. I didn't want to have too many signings from one team on the list, so I think it was a player, 36.9 million, half the price of what Arsenal paid for Nicolas Pepe. So I think in a similar sort of market, I think getting one of the best players, I mean, it's arguable, you will argue differently, of course, but at least in terms of output, one of the best players of his generation was a snip for me,
Well, a lot of people consider him the best ever Premier League player, so that's a very good shout that, for the fee that we paid, so decent shout, but he's not on my list.
I didn't think he would be, because you have your own personal opinions about Salah, But I think he put him in he's much like I think the other time I made the argument about what Alexis Sanchez could have been like in a better team. I think he could have been similar to Mo Salah. So I think if he had been in our team, Arsenal at the same time, we'd have probably seen him elevate us a bit more. His contribution would have been recognized a bit more, as opposed to being in a team where I think most of the time Van Dijk was probably the standout player, Like the price point, I wish we had his contribution, like a contribution like that at Arsenal from any player. I think the only player in our history that comes close to that is Thierry Henry. So I think it's hard to say. Like obviously, I thought he wouldn't make your list because you have your own personal opinions about him. But I think he's a player that elevates any team, I think, with just the fact that he can finish and create chances in the final third. I think, for me, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Premier League winger of all time. So 36.9 million in the modern market is, for me, probably one of the, not just Premier League transfers, but one of the best transfers in modern history.
Nice. My number 5 is N'Golo Kante from Cayenne to Leicester, 5.6 million. At the time, in modern day money, it would be 7.8 million.
Yeah, that for me was my number 2, but I put him as a double from Cayenne to Leicester and Leicester to Chelsea, because I think his impact at both was...
Well, yes. Okay, well, for me, just the one... I could have also mentioned the Chelsea transfer, because that was 32 million.
In the modern market for...
Yeah, 32 million for, like,
the greatest midfielder in the world at the time,
greatest defensive midfielder our league has ever seen. Yeah. Arguably. That's, again, another a snip. Okay? But I just think that the Cayenne one was a much more impressive
snip. Yeah, I mean
transfer. Yeah, he only stayed there for one season, but in that one season, he took them from the relegation favorites to title winners.
Yeah.
So they had finished just outside the relegation places the year before. They buy him and immediately win the league.
Yeah, I mean, it's not to slander or trivialize anything Mahrez or Vardy did in that season, but I still think he was the most important player by a long way.
The argument is that both Mahrez and Vardy were there the year before, and they didn't, put up the same numbers, it's when Kante gave them the base to build off, that's when magic happened.
I don't think a midfield with Danny Drinkwater and who was the number 10?
They played 4-4-2, so I guess it would be like Albrighton on the left, Mahrez on the right, Drinkwater, Kante in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a Premier League winning midfield without Kante,
Absolutely not.
And even at when he signed for Chelsea again, because I think I put both transfers as number 2.
Just because I think that's cheating. But
it is cheating a bit, but I couldn't decide which one was better, because I think for a little while he turned Chelsea into the best team in the world, and I think that in itself, he was more important than any player there. People will say Eden Hazard, but I think by the time they'd won the Champions League, Hazard had left, and even when they won the Premier League under Conte, I think that was against you guys and Man City. It was against.
No, it wasn't us. We were like a top 4 team.
No, I'm saying it was still in a context of playing against it. Maybe it was 1 year in for Guardiola, 2 years in for Klopp. They hadn't developed their projects. But I'd say Chelsea's project was also not at a developed stage, even if they'd spent a lot of money. I think they had good management. They had a good squad. Conte came in and managed it well, but I still think they probably, as they showed the next season when he struggled with injuries, they weren't a Premier League winning team without him.
Absolutely. Now, do you want to go for your number 4?
My number 4 was probably the. I think Alisson is the greatest goalkeeper in Premier League history, but in terms of price point, I think Petr Cech from Rennes to Chelsea, 7 million. I think in the modern market, maybe it translates to about 10 million, which is, I think, for who most people consider to be the greatest goalkeeper of his era. I think it's a bit of a snip. I think he was some people would say, Terry, they had a good back four at all times, but even when players were injured, players moved on, I think Petr Cech had a lot of clutch moments, especially in the Champions League final 2012, I think the final performance in any other game, Bayern might have won it, So I think, a lot of Premier League titles. He wasn't good at Arsenal, not his transfer to Arsenal. I wouldn't consider a good one, but I think for Chelsea, the amount of clean sheets, I think broke the clean sheet record and then beat it. So, I think to get a goalkeeper of that quality for that price, when the market was starting to be inflated, I think it was a good signing for Chelsea. For me, I put him at my number 4. Yeah.
Right, that's a good shout. But I don't have a goalkeeper on my list for the same reason that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
That attackers are the flashy signings, whereas goalkeepers, I just don't think a goalkeeper can impact a team in the way a striker can, or any forward player. Even buying Alisson was not the. What's the word? He didn't elevate us from one to another. He just took an already good team and made them better. I just don't think goalkeepers have the impact.
But I think a lot of the times we see in modern football, not having an elite goalkeeper can sometimes prevent a team from competing at the top end, And I think it's hard to say, especially if you look at the semi-finals of that. I mean, I know it's not related to the Premier League, but him being a signing for Chelsea in the 2012 winning campaign, I think maybe Drogba got the headlines, but the semi-finals and the finals, I think the amount of shots on target, I think 24 or something by Bayern in the final. Barca had over 30 between both legs. So I
understand what you're saying, but just when I think of the 2012 Champions League winning campaign, I think of Torres scoring at the Bernabeu, was it?
Yeah,
it was against Barcelona, and then I think of Drogba scoring in the final against Bayern Munich.
Yeah, but a lot of Chelsea fans will also think of Cech saves, the penalty saves.
Sure, but I'm saying I'm a Chelsea casual, meaning I don't watch every Chelsea game. So if that's what I remember, that's what I assume the general public sort of remembers.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but I think at the same time, he is one of the most impactful signings.
No, I agree with that.
Especially because I think he was one of the first signings of the Abramovich era, so I think he kind of made the push towards other big players going towards Chelsea, I guess, as well, because he could have gone to a lot of clubs at the time. He was one of the most sought after keepers, I think, in the world at the time, or he chose Chelsea over a couple other big clubs. I don't remember who it was, but I think for me, I wanted to have a couple different signings on the list, so I thought of Petr Cech, and I thought of how many times he's probably been a difference maker. He's a bit like Courtois, like a good price point and a good impact for me.
Yeah. My number 4 is Cristiano Ronaldo from Sporting to Manchester United for 12.24 million. In current day money, that will be 22.6 million. Is he on your list at all? Not.
No, he didn't make my list.
So,
unfortunately, I just didn't think of it because it didn't cross my mind.
All right. I just think he's so low on the list because, you think he's the best ever player in the league, possibly. He would be the number 1 transfer for such a low fee, but I just don't think he made the biggest impact. And what do I mean by that? Man United were already a winning team.
Yeah,
so he didn't, Conte took a relegation threatened team to win the league. Ronaldo took a let's say, a top 2 team and made them a top 1 team.
Yeah, and I mean, I think at Man United, he until his last season, you couldn't really say, or his last 2 seasons, you couldn't really say he was a complete player. So I wouldn't say that the signing from Sporting was directly impactful in the way that the other signings on my list are.
Yeah, but nevertheless, he's still one of the best ever Premier League players. So
he's definitely the greatest player the league's ever seen. So
so do you think that's a good transfer? Yes,
yeah, I think it's a great transfer. Obviously, I mean, there's no doubting it. At least the only reason it didn't make my list was because of the time it took him to settle in, you know.
Yeah, sure. A lot of people say he was there for 6 years, right? So his first 3 years weren't as good, and then the next 3 years were like world dominating, best ever.
Yeah, the last 2 were sensational, you know.
So that's why he's my number 4. Your number 3?
My number 3 was Thierry Henry, Juventus to Arsenal. I think
he's my number 2.
He's generally considered by the most amount of neutrals as the league's greatest ever player. I said in time I think that will change, obviously, once the modern Man City team gets appreciated historically, you know. So for now, to this point, he's generally the undisputed number 1 if you take a vote amongst Premier League neutrals, you know. I think 11 million in 1998 was kind of heavy, but I don't think it was like you had Zidane going to Juventus at the same time for like 30-40 million. You had
11 million in that time is 21.4 million today.
Yeah, so I mean, for Thierry Henry, probably
cheaper than Ronaldo's fee and 5 years earlier. So
yeah, I mean, generally, not just that, I think outside of Ronaldinho and Ronaldo, he's generally considered the next best player in that generation by most people, you know. So it's like, I think for me, just his impact at Arsenal, I think he transformed Arsenal more than anyone into a global force. Like, I think even the fact that people to this day, I don't think there's a number that's made more famous by one player in footballing terms, because the number 10 already had historic value, number 8 already had historic value, but most people who think of number 14, I know Cruyff used it before, but I don't think the game was that global at that time, and most people associate number 14 with Thierry Henry. I think he turned Arsenal into a brand more than anything because of the way he played. So yeah, that's my number 3.
Just to add on to that, because I also had him on my list, he won 2 Premier League titles and a combined 249 goals and assists for him. And like I mentioned in the previous episode, of the players with 100 goals or more in the Premier League, he has the highest ratio of goals to games the league has ever seen. So incredible player, incredible transfer for such a low fee.
Yeah,
that's about it.
I guess you got to give your number 2, because my number 2 is already revealed.
No, my number 2 was Henry.
Oh, okay.
So my number 3.
Oh yeah, your number 3. Sorry.
My number 3 is Vincent Kompany from Hamburg to Manchester City. 6 million, which would be 9.9 million in today's money.
Ooh, that's a good shout. I didn't think of that actually.
Yes. Well, I did my research. It's not that hard to just Google best transfers and then select a few.
I mean, I did the same, but
a lot of the ones that are listed I just did not agree with. Anyway, Vincent Kompany, leader, legend. He won 4 titles with Manchester City, and he was crucial in most of them. I always remember it was a Monday night game, and they were going up against United, like playing United, and they were going up against United in terms of the Premier League trophy, and Kompany scored a header to win 1-0, and that set them up to, I think that's the year they won it on goal difference.
Yeah.
Maybe. I cannot recall for the life of me, but
against Leicester.
No, against Man United.
Oh yes, I think that is the year they won it on goal difference. Yes.
Yeah. So Vincent Kompany. I think everyone knows how good he is in this era. If there's newer football fans that don't remember, he was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the greatest centre halves.
I wouldn't say he was one of the greatest centre halves, but in terms of
in the Premier League.
Even in the Premier League, I wouldn't say he's one of the. You'd be like, I don't know if he'd make my top 10. I'd have to think about it.
Put him in the top 10, but
I'm just saying in terms of clutch and leadership and the impact he made. That's why he's on my list at number 3.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess he oversaw the different eras of the modern Manchester City, you know, because I guess now they have an identity, but they went from Mancini to Pellegrini, who played more like Wenger, then they went from Pellegrini to Guardiola, and company was a part of all of that. So, you know, I definitely agree with you. Probably one of the top transfers in Premier League history.
Especially
Unfortunately, missed out on my list, but...
All right. So, we've already given your number 2, so who's your number 1?
My number 1, obviously, I mean... The price point, it's arguable whether it's worth it or not. I mean, obviously, I think it's worth it. I just went off the basis that I think he's the best player the league's ever seen. So I went with KDB, Wolfsburg to Manchester City. I think 55 million in the modern market for possibly one of the top 5 players in the game at the time is to see it. I mean, he wasn't at the time. I guess Guardiola... I think he signed under Pellegrini, but it was in Guardiola's vision. He's the player Guardiola...
He signed 1 year before Guardiola signed.
Guardiola wanted to build his team around him. I guess that was the player he told Man City to sign.
Well, it's very interesting, right?
Yeah.
KDB, Sterling, and I think Gundogan, like, they were all linked with Bayern, and then suddenly they weren't linked with Bayern, and they all went to Man City.
Yeah, and I mean...
So I think, this conspiracy theory is that, like, Pep phoned them up and said, hey, I'm going to City, don't come here.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of the same justification I use for Henry. Like, I think, does the price point justify the quality of the player if the player is the greatest player the league's ever seen? I think, like, let's just say you guys had won more titles against them, I would have given the spot to Virgil van Dijk because... he would have had the same sort of impact, you know. So I think this, whatever he cost wouldn't have been in my thinking then. For me, it's just that he was the player that defined this generation of the Premier League for me. So, and possibly for a long time will be the best player the league has seen, you know. So any price is worth it in my mind for KDB, you know.
Fair enough. That's a very good shout. I didn't have him on my list because 55 million is a bit, like, it's kind of like you're rated. You know what I'm saying? If I'm buying you for 50 million plus, you're a name. You know what I'm saying? It's we expected him to come into the league and do a good job. We didn't like Henry was not a failure at Juventus, but he was like seen as an underperforming player. Like people didn't know about who else did I mention? Like Ronaldo wasn't known, Kante wasn't known, Company wasn't known. Feel like KDB was a known element when...
But I feel like there was still a risk factor in it because he didn't do well at Chelsea. He went to Wolfsburg, he did well, but there'd been a lot of players, you're seeing it with Wirtz now, that have come from the Bundesliga. So I think Pep still took a bit of a risk on him.
That's fair.
Formed a team around him. He was already injury prone at Wolfsburg, so you were taking a risk on building a team around a player who's injury prone and relying on their clutch moments. And I think he came up with probably, we said it before, more clutch moments than anyone in the history of the league, you know.
Alright. My number 1 is Eric Cantona from Leeds to Manchester United for 1.2 million. Now 2.7 in today's money. So this is one of the most legendary transfers in history, and when I was growing up in the early 2000s, people were still talking about it. The context for this being the best transfer in Premier League history is that Man United hadn't won the league in 26 years. He came in and instantly transformed them from like top 4 contenders to league winners. In his time, he won 4 titles in 5 years before leaving. I don't know where he went after that, but 4 titles in 5 years. That's incredible.
Yeah, really good. He just didn't make my list because I didn't watch him. So,
well, he was the first name on my list because people, not to this day, but I guess because I'm talking about it, to this day, people talk about what a incredible transfer he was and how he changed United from...
I mean, he was the first, I think people generally consider him the first superstar in the Premier League, you know, so I think definitely could be a shout for number 1. I never watched him play, so I wouldn't have known what his impact was like exactly.
I didn't watch him either. I'm just saying
I buy into the folklore.
Yeah, based on reputation, that's why he's on this list.
I love him as a person. I remember his UEFA speech about he was talking something about the flies. You gotta go look at it. It's one of the funniest things, but I don't remember exactly what he said, but he was criticizing...
He's a very big character.
Yeah, he's funny.
He was criticizing what?
He was criticizing UEFA's classism.
Oh.
But you've got to go watch it. It's one of the funniest videos I've ever seen.
Huh. I'll definitely look that up. Do you want to do some honorable mentions? Or do you have any honorable mentions?
I mean, obviously, we could go through this, be thousands of honorable mentions. Dennis.
Well, I mean, I wrote down 3 honorable mentions. Not
Oh, yeah, I mean,
just
for me, obviously, as an Arsenal fan, I think Dennis Bergkamp, I think 10 million around the same time as Thierry Henry, maybe a season before, probably would also translate to 20 million in the modern market. So I think, again, at that time, you were picking up a player who was already being described as one of the best players of his generation that had just become injury prone and fallen out of form. So I think to get a player who was by and large already one of the best players in the world for 10 million is also a snip, I think if there's any other honorable mentions, I mentioned it earlier, Sadio Mane. I think both to Southampton and then to Liverpool, I think big impacts at both clubs. I think Southampton became recognizably worse once he left, so I think probably a few more. I mentioned Virgil van Dijk would have been number 1 even though he went for 77 million. I think he had a similar impact to KDB, just probably didn't play in as good a squad, so yeah, I don't know, what about you?
Well, just one thing you said, I totally disagree. I think we had a better squad than Man City. I think Guardiola's a better coach than Klopp.
Yeah, I mean, you could make that argument, but I think their depth was insane, but yeah.
Alright. Anyway, my honorable mentions. Number 1, Andy Robertson from Hull City to Liverpool. 8 million at the time, 10.8 million now. That was the first name that came to my head when you said best transfers, because he's arguably the best left back the league has ever seen, and he was 8 million.
Yeah, I mean, that's also a snip. That didn't cross my thinking.
The thing is, again, I have this bias towards attackers. I just don't think a left back is you don't buy a left back to win the league,
Yeah.
That's just how it is. Not similarly, but my honorable mention number 2 is Patrick Vieira from AC Milan to Arsenal. 3.5 million, which would be 7.1 million in today's money. Another absolute steal.
Yeah.
Won 3 league titles with Arsenal, 2 FA Cups.
Captain, leader.
Yes, captain, leader, legend, could be said for
Again,
a lot of
I just didn't want to have too many transfers from one club on the list, so I chose Henry. That was why Vieira didn't make my list.
And my third honorable mention, similarly to Robertson, and similarly to Peter Cech, I have Peter Schmeichel, who went from Brøndby to Manchester United for £500,000, which would be 1.1 million today. So Alex Ferguson called him the bargain of the century.
Could be. They're generally considered also before Peter Cech or alongside Peter Cech the greatest goalkeeper the league's ever seen, but I never watched him, so that's why he didn't make my list.
But once again, I just can't give credit to a goalkeeper to say, okay, he impacted and turned this team into a league-winning team. I just can't do that. Sorry. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but just call it a bias or whatever, but yeah, fuck goalkeepers. Alright. Do you want to get into the worst transfers of all time, or do you want to say anything else about the best transfers?
No, I've said everything I need, unless you have anything to add.
No, nothing at all. So I think this time I'll start with 5, and then you 5, and then we'll go on like that, right? So my number 5 worst transfer of all time in the Premier League, Nicolas Pepe from Lille to Arsenal, 72 million.
Yeah, that almost made my list as well. I think just it didn't make my list purely because I don't think he was that bad in terms of, I think during his whole time there he might have been the player with the most output in his time there after Aubameyang. So I think he just came into a really shit Arsenal team, so it's hard to see.
But he didn't make them better.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? If it's a bad team, you look better by comparison because you're good.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying I don't think his numbers were where I'd say, oh, the only thing that would make him the worst transfer is the price point, or one of the worst, because I don't think his impact, he came into a team that was already crap, and that team didn't produce any clutch moments, so you can't say, oh, okay, he didn't produce clutch moments, because if there was any clutch moments coming from anyone outside of Aubameyang, it was usually Nicolas Pepe,
Alright, you would know better than me, but just basically all I did was I checked the most expensive list of players, and then I just picked off the ones that I thought
definitely would have been a contender for my
this
list.
guy didn't make any difference to the team that signed him. So I thought, okay, Nicolas Pepe, one of them. Anyway, your number 5?
My number 5 was Fernando Torres, Liverpool to Chelsea. Went from the best to worst striker in the league overnight. I think, just the controversy around it. The fact that you guys were building a project around him at the time, and it was a snaky move. I don't really like snaky moves like that, So I think also you guys ended up getting a fucking crazy deal in the end, because what he became at Chelsea was terrible. But a lot of people say it's a confidence issue. Would he have had the confidence if he stayed at Liverpool? Would his confidence have taken a knock? Who knows? But I think he picked up a lot of injuries at Chelsea as well, so hard to judge. I mean, obviously, he came up with the clutch moment in the Champions League semi-final, which I'm sure in the long run all Chelsea fans will forgive the price point because they won the Champions League. But I think at the end of the day, they thought they were getting the best striker in the league, and
I'm going to have to disagree with what you said, because at the time, and again, I would know better about a Liverpool team, Torres was totally washed. We were hoping he would, get better, but the fact that he snaked us in hindsight it's pretty funny, because we didn't want him.
Yeah.
But we were buying Luis Suarez to play with Torres, and Torres leaving made us sign Andy Carroll. So, I disagree with what you said about him being the best in the league at the time. He was maybe the best in the league maybe 2 years earlier in
okay,
2008.
I wouldn't have followed Liverpool closely those times.
But at the time, he just wasn't as good. So we thought at the time 50 million, we robbed him. So there's that. The second thing is, like you said, he won the Champions League. So, and he contributed to it. So I can't say, this is a bad player, because he contributed to a Champions League win. That's huge. That's a...
Yeah, I mean, I don't take that away from him. I just think what Chelsea thought they were signing in relation to what they got is, I think for one clutch moment. Again, if I was a Chelsea fan, I'd forgive him.
But there's players on the best list that didn't contribute to a Champions League win.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but again, I didn't necessarily consider trophies or winning things in my thinking. So I was purely
the player.
Chelsea thought they were signing the Torres that won Spain the World Cup, or won Spain the Euros in 2008.
Alright, fair enough.
They didn't get that. I think they got a player far off that, and so much so that Drogba still had to continue to lead the line for the next 4 years,
My number 4, Tanguy Ndombele from Lyon to Spurs, 65 million. He came in with a huge reputation. This is when I first started watching Tifo football and consuming internet football content, and everyone was talking about Ndombele and how press resistant he was, and he's going to come and dominate the league, and then he was just bad.
Yeah, I mean,
Jose Mourinho criticized him for his work ethic.
I think
he used to walk around the pitch.
I think almost every coach that he had at Tottenham criticized his shape, or him coming back to the season unfit consistently, or consistently being out of shape, So I think probably a player. Maybe I didn't watch him much, but the games where I saw, he did seem to have a bit of technique on him, but it just seemed like there was a fitness issue,
When I say worst transfer, it's because he didn't do well here. I'm not saying he's a bad player.
Yeah.
In fact, he went to Napoli and won the Scudetto with Antonio Conte.
A slower league suits him, though.
Yes, that's the thing. So I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm just saying his transfer didn't work out at all. And the player he was at Spurs is not even, perhaps even a championship player. That's the level he was playing at when he was here in the league. Yes. Your number 4?
My number 4 was, obviously there was some personal bias in this one, but I'm happy it didn't work out in the long run. But it was Alexis Sanchez to Manchester United from Arsenal. I think he himself said from his first training session he wished he'd been back with us. So I think, again, at the time, he was really one of the top 2 or 3 players in the league. He was carrying us by himself. I think maybe at different times, it was a comparison between him and Hazard, and people were saying who's the best winger in the league at the time. I think just before the Guardiola and Klopp era, I think Guardiola wanted to sign him as one of the first players in his Manchester City stint as well. I think he was going to be the player that was the person who produced the end product. I think he ended up having to settle for even though I think he signed Sterling before, I think he didn't sign Sterling with the intention of making him an output-heavy player.
Well, Sterling was signed before Guardiola.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think when Guardiola came in, his idea was that probably to use Sterling for his creative abilities as opposed to maybe more for his dribbling and his ball carrying. And then I think when he got there, he said, okay, maybe I could use this guy for his output. I think it still, at the start, wasn't working out. He came back and tried to sign Alexis Sanchez. I think at that stage, Alexis was delivering crazy numbers of goals and assists and almost single-handedly carrying Arsenal, So I just think, terrible signing for all parties concerned. We didn't get a good deal on our end with Mkhitaryan. I think he did very little for us in his time there. So, just a terrible transfer all around.
So this wasn't on my list, but it was in my dishonorable mentions.
Yeah.
I've spoken about this before, Man United love to do a spite signing.
Yeah.
Meaning Manchester City wanted Alexis Sanchez. Man United went in, paid over the top. I understand it was a free...
Wages. The wages were crazy.
It was a swap transfer, but the wages, he was over £300,000 per week. And he had a bunch of extra signing bonuses, and for the output that Alexis Sanchez gave them, not good enough. Not good enough at all.
Good enough.
My number 3. And we're seeing a pattern here, right? With the best transfers, a lot of Man United signings, but also in the worst transfers, a lot of Man United signings.
Yeah, that's I guess that's our personal biases.
Yeah. My number 3, Jadon Sancho, Borussia Dortmund to Manchester United, 73 million. He's done awfully for them. I know he did score 1 goal against Liverpool, which people love to share with me. Van Dijk fell over and Sancho scored. And that's the entirety of his contributions at Man United.
I mean, he would have probably been in my honorable mentions. I think maybe the only reason I didn't put him in my list was just purely because... it's hard to gauge with Sancho exactly how he was managed at Manchester United. I think the price point is crazy, but I think at the time, people were considering him as being one of the best young players in Europe, so you weren't going to be able to get him for cheap. I think it didn't work out, definitely made my honorable mentions. The reason I didn't put it on my list was purely because, like I said, I didn't want to have too many transfers from one team. And I think I already have 2 from Man United on my list, so he just missed out on that basis,
All right, who's your number 3?
My number 3 was Anthony.
My number 2, Ajax to Manchester United for £85 million.
Yeah, probably, generally spoken of as one of the worst signings in football history, not just
Premier League history.
I think he's not even doing that well at Betis, but the fact that people are praising him shows how much of a bad signing he was, how badly he was doing at Manchester United, so I think
or maybe La Liga is an easier league.
Maybe in your opinion. That will never change my opinion.
Alright, I'm pointing out some stuff.
But again, I do think the Premier League, I've always said, it has a physicality and an athleticism that no other league has, where that's a separate point. But I think Anthony just he came in, scored a winner against us, and then people thought that was going to be
He scored 3 goals in his first 3 games.
Yeah, and they were against Arsenal, Man City, and someone else, I think.
I don't know who the games were against, but that's why United fans were, especially in my WhatsApp group, my friends were going buck wild. They're like, oh my God, it was a lot of money, but we got somebody.
We got the next Neymar.
Yeah, okay, didn't say that, but similar stuff.
Obviously I'm exaggerating, but they were
No, you're not exaggerating. They said similar stuff.
Yeah, they said similar stuff. They were thinking of putting I don't know if they were saying they signed him with a Ballon d'Or clause or something similar to Martial. So anytime Man United signs a player and puts a Ballon d'Or clause in it, I don't think it's going to work out good for that player,
Another reason I think this is a horrific transfer is that nobody was not betting against them. Nobody else was bidding against them.
Yeah, so how do you go close to £100 million?
Nobody is fighting with you. I guess the thing at the time is Ajax didn't want to let him leave. So Ajax were like, no, we don't want to let him go. And then United just came with a dump truck full of money and said, no, we're taking him.
But this is, it's just like the whole deal is crazy because, I mean, I understand you pay more for attackers, but I think when I was online, even looking at the response from Ajax fans at the time of the transfer, I think they were so happy.
Yes,
they
of
were
course.
They were like, oh.
Even like at the time, people were like, yeah, this is a bad transfer.
I mean, like, I'm not saying they wanted Jurriën Timber as much as us. I feel like he would have been better value for 85 million than
Anthony
if they had gone in at the same time. You know, that would have been a ridiculous fee, but at least you're getting a defender who's consistent, who's been one of the best in his position in the league for a little bit now. You know, I feel like, what did Anthony give you? If you were going to go all out for Ajax player, just go all out for their best player. I mean, you paid for him to watch a game and he signed for us. That doesn't make sense, you know. But I think, just one of the most absurd signings in Premier League history, you know.
Yeah, so your 3 was my number 2. So what is your number 2?
My number 2 is Mykhailo Mudryk, Shakhtar to Chelsea. I think 75 million, they went over the odds to beat us to a signing. Again, another spite signing. A signing they didn't need, and looks like he might never ever play a game in his career. So I think you've just spent close to 100 million because, I mean, it won't reach 100 million because I'm sure they're not going to have to pay the add-ons now, but 75 million for a player who's probably played 2 or 3 games and never going to play again is also a horrible signing, you know. I think probably will go down as one of the worst in football history, especially because I think by the time he comes back, he's not going to be able to play at a Premier League level, you know.
I didn't consider him. I considered him, but I didn't put him in this list because that's non-footballing reasons.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you had your reasons, I had mine, but I think just based off of how much they paid for him.
Yes.
And the fact that they wanted to build their team around him, it's just been a horrible signing all around, you know.
Fair enough. So my number 1 is Kepa Arrizabalaga from Atletico Bilbao to Chelsea, 72 million. I've never seen an impressive performance from him. In fact, he's pretty awful a lot of the time. Most recently, I understand this is from Bilbao to Chelsea, but most recently he fumbled for Arsenal in the Carabao Cup final. He has not improved since the time that he was initially signed. He embarrassed Maurizio Sarri in the League Cup final by not coming off when he substituted him, and just an overall bad player. Still the current record for most expensive goalkeeper of all time, and
I mean, he would have also been in my honorable mentions. I think the only reason I really didn't put him in was because, again, I think it's hard. It's hard to measure what his impact was or wasn't. Again, because I think Chelsea couldn't have done much better or worse in that time period. I think you guys and Liverpool were way ahead of them, and I think when he had the whole spat with Sarri, they still finished third. They still won the Europa League. I think overall it just wasn't like I would have thought he was that bad where he affected Chelsea or dragged them down the table, or it was completely I think it's more his attitude, it didn't work out, and then you thought you were getting one of the best goalkeepers in the world, but you didn't. So I put him in my honorable mentions, not on my list though.
Alright, fair enough. What is your number 1? My
number 1 is from unemployment to 53 minutes on the pitch for Southampton, Ali Dia. Surely has to be the worst.
I forgot about that.
I watched the documentary on him. Surely has to be the worst. I mean,
alright, please give some context to the listeners on who Ali Dia is and what happened.
Ali Dia is basically an amateur footballer, no different to someone playing five-a-side on the weekends. So somehow, I don't know what the story is, I watched a documentary on it, he manages to organize a phone call between himself and Graham Souness, who was the Southampton manager at the time. By some strange coincidence, he manages to convince him that he's George Weah. on the phone call.
No, I don't think he.
Or he's related to George Weah,
he's
something
related
like that.
to some player. Yeah.
And he's been involved in football for a number of seasons. So Graham Souness, for God knows what reason, decides to sign him up
on the spot
and play him the next weekend. After, I think the Southampton players said when he got to training, they were like, "This guy can't control the ball. Why is he here?" So I mean, kudos to Ali Dia though for managing to get a career as a Premier League footballer from the unemployment line. It's quite an achievement, you know. I wish I could do it even for an hour. I mean, the fact that he played even 53 minutes is a sensational achievement. I don't know if this is the best or the worst transfer. We'll let people decide, you know. From Ali Dia's perspective, it's the best, you know.
Yeah. Alright. Any honorable mentions you want to give up to?
No, I think most of my honorable mentions were on your list, so it's like...
Yeah,
we already discussed that.
Alright, and Alexis Sanchez was my only honorable mention that you gave already. So, I think that's the end of our list. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, I mean, I think just, glad to have the Premier League back.
So we can stop doing these fucking evergreen episodes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just also good to have some football to watch, you know, like at least that's back. I don't know, I guess a lot of the we see Arsenal, Man City slowly now as well, Barcelona pulling their players out of the international break. I think that's the right thing to do, honestly. I don't think these international friendlies just before. Maybe if you're in Sweden or Poland's circumstance where you have a competitive game to play, I'd understand it, but I think that's just been doing the headlines. I think Arsenal catching a lot of flack online for pulling our players out, but I'm glad the Premier League's back and I'm glad we're prioritizing it, you know. I don't think players should need to play these games at all, to be frank, you know.
So we have about a couple minutes left over because we try to get to an hour, as close as to an hour as possible, right? So I'm just going to kind of fill up the time. And this is an evergreen episode, so I probably shouldn't do this, but I just want to talk about some recent news.
Yeah.
And that's De Zerbi is back in the league.
Oh, yes.
That's
Zerbi at Tottenham.
Easily my favorite coach in the world. Just attacking madman, plays just, very intense, high energy football, which I love to watch. The players are always very good on the ball, so, watch out for Spurs next season. The only thing I could say is that maybe when he joined Brighton, he lost his first 5 games. Or not lost his first 5 games, he didn't win his first 5 games, so there were draws and losses, right? So Spurs desperately need one win right now, just one. So I don't know.
I'm interested to see how you would develop some of their players, especially like Van der Ven or Bergwijn. But if he gets relegated, I don't think he's going to get that opportunity because he'll almost certainly be sold off. But I think if he was to get relegated, his brand of football, I think, would get them up very quickly if he agreed to stay.
Also because they just have better players than...
Yeah, but I think most of those players would be forced to sell them. Like, I think if you look at when Juventus got relegated...
Yeah, because they can't afford the wages. I understand that, but I'm saying they would hold on to a core of
players that were still better than what the Championship had to offer.
Yes, that's what
Presumably. But, I mean, if you take out that core of top players, how good is the Tottenham squad actually? Because we've seen now 2 back-to-back seasons where they've been in the relegation, in and amongst the bottom teams in the league.
I think they're way better than their league position indicates. I think they've been mismanaged to an nth degree.
I agree, but I'm saying if you let's just say now they go down. If they lose Van der Ven, if they lose Bergwijn, if they lose Udogie, if they lose Archie Gray.
We linked with Archie Gray. I love it. I love Archie Gray.
If they lose Archie Gray, Kulusevski when he comes back from injury, how good is that team then relative to the Championship teams?
I still think they're better. Sorry.
Also, Xavi Simons will leave, so it's like...
That's not a big loss. He hasn't done anything. He's come on a huge transfer fee. He could be on this worst... The only reason I didn't put in Florian Wirtz, Alexander Isaac is that they haven't... They're new transfers.
They could still bang.
Give it 3-4 years, they would be on this list if Yeah, but anyway, sorry, you were saying about Spurs?
Yeah, so I mean, De Zerbi is also one of my favorite coaches. I would love him to save Tottenham. I've said I don't want them to get relegated. I would love to also see how a player like Bergwijn would develop under him. So I wish him the best. I still think he's got a bit of a tough job because I think Tottenham have the hardest fixture list out of any of the teams in the bottom there. And like you said, they have the best squad though. That's what I think works in their fashion. And I think De Zerbi is the type of personality that in the immediate moment can get a tune out of them in a man management sense. I think in the long run, that's something he still has to work on. I think he fights with his players a lot, but right now he could be the guy they need. I feel like he'll keep them up,
Last thing I want to end off with is a stat. De Zerbi has the highest win percentage of any Marseille manager ever.
Oh, yes, I did see that when I think someone tweeted it when he signed for Tottenham.
Number 1 and number 2 was Igor Tudor. So that's not saying much, is it?
I mean, yeah, let's see. Igor Tudor, hopefully it works out better for De Zerbi. I'm pretty sure it will, though.
Right, well, thank you for listening. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe, give a like, etc.
Leave a comment.
Importantly, it needs to be a 5-star review. You can find all our links at pdfootball.com. That's the letter P, the letter D, football.com. Please tell a friend, tell that friend to tell a friend, tell a family member. And yeah, goodbye.
Peace.